Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bob Z UnKut Community Views. And we like to welcome back to our show the Sheriff of Norfolk, Joe Barron. This is if you survived the first time, then you ran the gauntlet, and you back again. So that must be pretty good. That says a lot about you. But he's up for re-election in a big election we have November the 2nd. So I want to talk to him about his plans and what he's done and what he's most proud of. So, well, let's get it started. You are running for re-election as Sheriff of the City of Norfolk. Can you tell us some of the things that you are most proud of from your last term?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. There's lots to be proud of that we've been able to accomplish over the last 4 years. Probably too much to cover in one show, and I'd love to come back, obviously, and cover them all. But the highlights for me is, what I've been able to do for my staff, improving their benefits, improving their pay. When I took over, staff morale was a little bit low because of pay issues. And I was able to work in partnership with the city to get them from a 1.7 multiplier for their retirement to 1.85. And from 2017 to now, to current, they've gone from starting pay is increased by about $11,000. We still have a ways to go to get us to be competitive with Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. Mm-hmm. But, we're very close to that magic number for me. The other thing that I'm very proud of is some of our inmate programs and our community programs. The one program that stands out to me is our vocational work release program, which is the automotive program in partnership with Priority Automotive and TCC, and now it's going to be VOTEC, where we're teaching inmates auto mechanic skills, certificate-based, so that when they get out, they have the certificates to go with them. They're offered a full-time job, full-time pay, full-time benefits. They're not required to go with Priority Automotive. They can go wherever they want, but Mr. Dennis Elmer offers them all those things. Okay. And it's been transformative for some of the inmates. In fact, one of the inmates that went through the program is the top producing mechanic at Priority Automotive, period. Wow. And so in his first year out, he was making over $70,000 a year, and which is pretty good right out of the gate. That'll change your life, yeah. The other program that I'm really proud of is a brand new program called Camp Hope. And, we have the summer camps and that kind of thing. But across the country, there's Camp Hopes in other states. Virginia didn't have one. And I'm the first sheriff in the country to start a Camp Hope. Oh, wow. And I started the very first Camp Hope. In the nation? In the nation. Okay. Yeah, so they got Camp Hopes other places, but other entities have the Camp Hopes. Camp Hope is all about our youth who have been negatively impacted by violence in our communities, and that whether that's domestic violence or some other kind of violence. And the idea is to bring youth together that all have that experience because they're all feeling some way about it, and they're feeling whether they have anger or resentment or fears or challenges that they're trying to overcome because of those experiences. We bring them together in a week-long camp, and they get to share their experiences, but they also get to overcome challenges on different events that we have going on during the camp, which helps them create those skills. Right? And then every single month, my staff has mentoring sessions with them for a full year, and then we invite them back to the camp again next year. And when they age out, we invite them back to be camp counselors. It's an evidence-based program, and it's a trauma-informed camp. Okay. And it's very successful.
That's key, that trauma-informed. In case some of you don't know what trauma-informed means, it's actually I guess the old behavior-based studies was like saying what's wrong with them. Right. And trauma-informed care says what happened to them. Right. So that's very important that, you know, we try to educate you guys on. You hear trauma-informed care, a lot of times you don't understand. I mean, I know some, you know, I jokingly say I still got trauma from Emmett Till, but, you know, I have trauma from some stuff that I don't even know that was traumatizing, which leads me to a segue. When you were talking about you're the only sheriff's department, you know, the rest have been other law enforcement entities. And I just know when we were kids, man, we just saw lights.
Well, it wasn't law enforcement entities really, Bob.
What was
it? It's like YMCAs and things like that.
Different organizations.
Different organizations.
But no sheriff's departments.
Right.
Okay. Well, I was about to lead all the way in and say, well, when we just saw lights, man. We didn't know it was the police, the sheriff. I mean, we just kids, you know. We just automatically had a inclination to run. We didn't know. And so my question is, I guess people just think of the sheriff sometimes as, and we go back to the Wild Wild West, and the sheriff is just people who locks people up. Just for our listeners and viewers that may not be in the know, you know, what are the chief duties of the sheriff as compared to someone, let's say, like the police chief?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a great question. You get that a lot in civic leagues. So the main difference between, you know, in a city, the main difference between a sheriff's office and the police department is the police department, they're your first responders. They're your primary law enforcement for the city. So like the Norfolk Police Department is the primary law enforcement for the city of Norfolk. You call 911 because somebody stole something out of your car, the police are going to come. Or if you have an accident, the police are going to come to investigate that accident. The sheriff's office, my duties, you know, are really confined to running the jail. If a city has a jail, the sheriff runs the jail. Number two is doing court security. So the bailiffs and the screeners and all that are in our consolidated courthouse, they all work for me. And civil process. So when a court issues a court order, you know, it's the sheriff's deputies that are carrying out that order or delivering subpoenas and those kind of things. So that's what the sheriff's office does. But I do a little more, you know, because we also do community outreach, which is not constitutionally required of me to do. I also provide inmate programs, like one I've already discussed, which is not required of a sheriff to do, but it only makes sense because 96% of the inmates in my care are coming back to our community. Right. So how they come back, Bob, is sometimes based on what we do while they're in there. Right.
Well, you brought up a very good word that a lot of our constituents, a lot of people watching and listening don't understand when you say constitutional, because we have, I think it was a commissioner of revenue, the treasurer, the sheriff, and the Commonwealth attorney.
Yes.
Those are our constitutional.
And the clerk of the court.
And the clerk of the court. Those are our constitutionally elected officers. What's the difference? Define that for us.
Sure. So constitutional officers means that it's in the Constitution of Virginia that each locality will have a sheriff, you know, a treasurer, you know, the commissioner of revenue and so forth, and a Commonwealth attorney. A chief of police, for example, is selected by or hired by, you know, a city manager who runs the city in Virginia, and the city manager is hired by city council. So the chief of police answers to city management, and I, as an elected official, I answer to the citizens of Norfolk.
Okay, very good distinction, very good distinction. So let's just say it's a small, very small township or something like that. Do they have to have, they don't have to have a chief of police, but they have to have a sheriff?
Yeah, so a township will have, like Isle of Wight County. Isle of Wight County doesn't have a police department, but they have a sheriff's office that does their law enforcement.
Okay,
he's the primary law enforcement.
I get it now. Okay, that's important. One of the things that I want to ask you, and I've been kind of like following, you know, some of the progress. We've talked a number of times, and I've been following you. and following what your organization has been doing. But one of the questions I wanted to address was that will you introduce some new initiatives that will benefit the city of Norfolk if reelected?
Yeah, I think we continue with the initiatives we've already started. We're already looking at new initiatives that we're bringing to the table, that when you say benefit the citizens of Norfolk, anything that we do for the betterment of people that are in my jail that are coming back to our community is for the betterment of the citizens of Norfolk. So for example, we now have a partnership with Tidewater Community College. They're going to bring one of the new initiatives. They're going to bring college courses into the jail. We already have one of the, we've already greatly expanded our GED education program. We've got more inmates getting their GED than ever before. TCC is seeing that, and and they are coming to bring college courses, but they're also bringing additional job skills courses. So I get focused on 4 things with our inmate programs. One is education, because because you've taught criminal justice, and I know that about you, is one of the determining factors of what may lead someone to be incarcerated is their education level. And if you don't have a GED or a high school diploma, you're like 9 times more likely to end up in jail than anyone else. So the GED program is extremely important. Education programs are. The other is job skills. There was a study that was done throughout the country of finding neighborhoods with the highest incarceration rates. Norfolk has one of those neighborhoods that's like number 3 in the nation in incarceration, and they attribute it to job skills, job opportunities, and education level as the causes for the high incarceration. So for me, that study was telling, and then I got focused on that, and I got focused on job skills training, and that's one of my initiatives is to bring additional job skill programs to the Sheriff's Office and our inmate programs, education programs, mental health programs, and substance abuse programs. So all those are really important, initiatives. But the other thing that we just, got signed up on, which is a new initiative, which will carry into the next 4 years, is for the first time in the history of the Sheriff's Office, the DEA and the FBI have asked the Sheriff's Office to be participants in their task force, which allows the Sheriff's Office to play a role. Well, it is good.
I'm just saying,
well, it's good, one, that, we're partnering, with agencies that, are trying to ensure that our city is safer. And so, and whenever there's a division, so when there's funds that come from that, the Sheriff's Office will be able to get some of the funds related to that. Why is that important to you? Because as a taxpayer, guess what? The city doesn't have all the funds it needs for our aging facility to, do everything that they probably need to do. Doesn't always have all the funds because they have so many competing interests for the funds to invest in radios and and that kind of thing. So
and the reason why you heard me grunt is my only concern is that we've coming out of a time of just a lot of police issues within the community, and I don't want to say over policing, but some of the stuff that we've witnessed has just been horrific. And when you say, well, the feds are gonna now partner with the Sheriff's Office, I mean, I want to get the criminals off the street. Let's make that perfectly clear. But I just don't want to see a return to some of the stuff that and it's just kind of almost a relaxed, I guess, and just from my perspective, again, with the marijuana laws being changed and some of the laws being changed about frivolous police stops and all those kind of things. I mean,
4 years ago when I took over as sheriff, one of the very first things I did was I changed our motto. And I expect our employees to live by that motto. And that motto is very simply, the Norfolk Sheriff's Office serves in the spirit of the Golden Rule. treat others the way you wish to be treated.
Right.
I've been in law enforcement for 36 years, and it is my belief that if we all just did that, we would have a better relationship with our community. Treat people with respect. Treat people with dignity. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And at the end of the day, I've tasked my employees to behave that way. Whenever they don't behave that way, they don't need to either work for me or they will be held accountable. So I think what's important is, one, you have that leadership, and whether it's a police department or a sheriff's office or anywhere in law enforcement, is that you have leadership that understands that simple rule, and two, holds your employees accountable appropriately, but at the same time ensuring that you're doing what you can to lift morale, because when morale's high, they're more likely to be of a good nature in treating people positively than negatively.
Right. And really, like I said, I applaud you, because, I mean, I've just watched, and every time I turn around, I look at and see something on social media, something where somebody's getting promoted, either somebody of different gender, different, minority status or something. I'm like, well, okay, I mean, that's just good to see. It's refreshing. So, I mean, like I said, I'm gonna give it to you uncut. I'm gonna tell it like I see it, and that's what I see. And so, there's no need not. But I do remember the last time we talked. I mean, it was crazy, Joe. It was like the height of the pandemic when we were talking last time. It's like, man, what y'all doing to keep people? Because it was like, I mean, it was crazy. It was actually, particularly in institutions. I mean, they closed the schools. Obviously, you couldn't close the jail. But you did a lot. I think with like prisoner release and all that. So let me just ask you this question: what is COVID still an issue, and how are you doing? How do you fare? I guess versus the height of the pandemic.
Well, we're doing very well, and in fact, I think we're a model regionally for how to respond with the jail population. Currently, I think we have one inmate who just recently tested positive. We're very aggressive in how we respond to someone who's not feeling well, and separating them, and then and putting blocks on quarantine, so that there's no chance of spreading, and paying attention to the well-being of the inmates that are in quarantine to see if anyone else develops symptoms. We have not had an outbreak since April of 2020, and that was March of 2020. I had a meeting with my staff, and we laid out a plan on how we were going to respond to COVID-19. And I said to them, it's not if it's going to get in the jail, it's going to get in the jail. It's a matter of how do we reduce the risk of it getting into the jail, and then how do we respond. And so we created a plan, including turning our process around in booking. We stopped visitation. We stopped, personal contacts with, attorneys coming into jail, contractors coming into jail, anything that we could control, of non-person, sheriff's office personnel coming into the jail who could carry the virus into our facility. We restricted that. We still gave full access to inmates to have contact with their counsel, but we did it through video, and then we had April, we had an outbreak that I think had like 40 inmates, but it was all in one block. None of them, except for 2 people, had symptoms. They were all asymptomatic. And then the 2 that had symptoms had light, or I should say low-grade fevers. And that's it. And so from that point, I was able to get help from Centera and from the health department, and they came in and we tested the entire facility, and we tested all of our employees, so we knew what our starting point was. So we knew who had it, who didn't have it, and if anybody had it, if it was an employee, we sent them home. They were on quarantine, and I think at some point we had like 12 employees that had it, but we learned the process. We learned how to identify it, and how to have hot zones, warm zones, and the cold zones, you know. And then eventually CDC came out with their recommendations, and we were pleased that almost everything that we were doing was within those recommendations.
Well, what about your staff? Are they like, is the vaccination required, or what is the deal with that?
No, no, I don't require it. I've had the vaccination. I've had COVID. I've had the vaccination. When the booster comes out, I'm getting it. I'm leading by example. I'm encouraging staff to get it. You know, I feel a particular way about requiring people to do something with their body. You know, but you know, now that Pfizer's shot has been fully approved, you know, we keep putting out messages for people to get vaccinated. I have some employees that on religious grounds that they don't do it, you know, and so I mean, I'm trying to walk the fine line of employee morale and you know, taking care of my employees and taking care of the inmates in my care.
Okay. Well, I know that's really a touchy subject. I know I work in the schools, so they just put out a mandate that, you know, all teachers and everyone, and I'm glad to tell you the truth, because I'm like, man, it's so many kids. I have to like stick my hand out and say, hey, there's a 3-foot barrier when you come to talk to me, because they like to walk up on me. I'm like, no, stay. And it's like when you look at the last frontier for it, I mean, the kids are like, you know, it's trickled down to that. So I'm glad, but I know it's a touchy issue. It's a political issue. It's been politicized heavily. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. My next question is, I guess dealing with the black community, and it's you know, as far as I see, it's always been overrepresented in the jails and in the courts and in the criminal justice system. It's like, I mean, it's like, even if it's like we're 13%, we're like 60% of the criminal justice system on the wrong side, not the lawyers and the judges, but, you know, the people that are facing charges. And so what does your community outreach look like, and what improvements are you willing to consider if reelected?
So community outreach, you know, I mentioned, you know, our work with Camp Hope. But the other thing that we've done is we have the Senior Support Services Seminar that I created, which I copied from Chesapeake. You know, and that's part of our outreach in connecting senior citizens to services in the community they may not otherwise get connected to. But you know, we participate in you know, just about, you know, every event that that's brought to our attention. Right. You know, recently, you know, Bilal Muhammad called me and asked me to participate in a Stop the Violence, you know, event, which I participated in. I think these events are good, and I think it's about, you know, bringing attention to these problems. And, you know, I'm committed to continue to be in the community, which I have been for the last 4 years, going to civic leagues, going out into, you know, going over to Berkeley on a regular basis. They used to say, we never see the sheriff's office in Berkeley. Well, they see me over in Berkeley. You know, in fact, I was over there with Pee Wee earlier today, you know, and right, having conversations with him, who's the mayor of Berkeley.
I know him well.
Yeah, but for me, I'm open to anything that, you know, connects us better with the community. For me, it starts with our values and communicating to the community in a way that's transparent, and then making myself available. And I'm always available. Like you call me, you say, hey, you want to come on? You know, so I'm here. So. Okay.
Well, we're talking with Joe Barron, the Sheriff of Norfolk, and we'll be back. We got to let our sponsors have their say. We'll be back in 2 and 2.
I'm Hala Ayala. My story is a Virginia story. Night shifts, minimum wage, pregnant with no health care. But with a little help and a lot of hard work, I built a career and a middle-class life. So when I got to Richmond, I made it my mission to ensure hardworking Virginians have that same opportunity. As Lieutenant Governor, I'll build on that record to attract more good-paying jobs so every family thrives.
Love First Marriage Movement, where we work with couples virtually all over the world to transition from a place of pain to genuine peace and resilience from the inside out. We help them by sharing our own marital rags to marital bliss journey. Check us out at lovefirstmarriagemovement.com.
I look at the issues facing our city through the lens of equity and social justice. Hello, I'm Danica Royster, Norfolk City Councilwoman, Super Ward 7. I represent a new generation of leadership of Norfolk, a new voice, a new energy to tackle the tough issues we're facing, like gun violence, affordable housing, job creation, and helping our youth become productive citizens. Committed, compassionate service that is accountable, prudent, and transparent. Vote on November 2nd, Danica Royster for Norfolk City Council, Super Ward 7.
Welcome to Comedic Services, LLC. We provide supportive in-home and residential group home services in the Hampton Roads area, including Williamsburg, Franklin, Zuni, Joanno, and Southampton County. Our offices are located at 2428 Almeida Avenue, Suite 170 in Norfolk, Virginia, and at 601 North Mechanic Street in Franklin, Virginia. Comedic Services, LLC is a Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities, CARF, accredited service. Our motto is fostering a culture of service and advocacy for humanity.
Our job is to keep Virginia safe.
And we know the truth about Terry McAuliffe's record.
When Terry McAuliffe was governor, Virginia was the 4th safest state in America.
That's right, the 4th safest.
And Terry increased funding and training for police.
It's Glenn Youngkin who worries us.
Glenn Youngkin wants to roll back gun safety laws, including background checks.
Letting violent criminals have more access to guns.
Putting our lives at risk.
It's Glenn Youngkin who's a real threat to our safety.
I'm Terry McAuliffe, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
Hello and welcome back to Bob's the UnKut Community Views, a podcast where we give it to you just like we get it. We get it straight from the hip, and we're going to give it to you that way. So we're here talking with Joe Barron, the Sheriff of Norfolk, and he's running for re-election, and he's in here telling us some good stuff about what he's been doing and what he proposes to do. My next question to you is about my favorite word is transparency. Transparency with one particular entity, and I just want to know with the operations at the Hampton Roads Regional Jail, and I just want to kind of like, where is our partnership with that facility, and what changes do you feel need to be implemented? Okay, let me just make sure. So when it comes to operations, so where am I at with the Hampton Roads Regional Jail? Yeah, are we? I've pulled all my inmates out of the Hampton Roads Regional Jail. Okay. Yes. So I'm still on the board, you know, because that's part of their I guess bylaws or the creation of it. Somebody. But the regional jail was never an operation that I never signed on to. You know, when I got elected as sheriff, there wasn't a process in which to to add me onto it. So I'm not a signer to the agreement, but and there were certainly things going on that were concerning to me. Right. You know, the deaths of inmates, the level of staffing over there, safety and security, you know, and so at some point I felt like the inmates that we had over there may not have been in the best place to be for their safety and security, and so I brought them back. Okay. And so I don't have any inmates at the Hampton. If I do, I think I have 4 inmates left over there, but they're state responsible. They don't have any city charges left. Well, hey, say less. You know, that's good. Yeah. Okay. So here's the recent law giving city employees the right to organize was passed by the General Assembly last year. I got a full disclosure. I called the Sheriff's Department and I was talking to some people about, you know, and so and I talked to a couple of people and like, where do you stand on your employees as far as the right to collective bargaining with within the department? Yeah. So the
the new law doesn't apply to sheriff's offices.
Okay.
And there's a reason for it. The sheriffs don't have any control over pay and benefits or those kind of things for employees, which is generally, what unions are pushing for. You know, if I could control their pay and benefit, one, my staff would be better paid. All I can do is advocate for better pay and benefits. The other things that twist and turns for sheriffs are, for like me, I'm a sheriff's office that is supplemented by the city. We get additional pay for our employees. That's a supplement coming from the city. The city does not have to do that. They're not required to do that. And there's a state portion of compensation, and then the city offers supplement on the other part. For me, if my employees, like you talk about collective bargaining, right? In order for them to collectively bargain, they would have to do that with our legislators and the senators and our House representatives, because they're the ones that control whether deputies get raises or not. They're the ones that control where their benefits, the levels of their benefits. So whether or not they get additional health care, right? We're in city health care because of the supplement. But the state controls all monies related to that stuff. So if, like the 1.85 multiplier we just had, it was an option that legislators created for cities to be able to opt into. Last year, I was able to convince city council to opt into the 1.85 multiplier versus the 1.7.
What does that mean? But it was
an option.
Oh
yeah, sure.
What is the multiplier? And because people are like, what does that mean, man?
Right. Well, so it's the percentage of what you earn for each year that you're working in the sheriff's office going towards your retirement. Okay. So you're getting 1.7 for each year that you're working, at the sheriff's office towards your retirement. Now it's 1.85. The legislators, when they created the law, could have made it a requirement of 1.85 versus an option, but they made it an option. So those are the kind of things. So if you collect it to be part of a union and you want to have collective bargaining in a sheriff's office, you would have to be able to collectively bargain with your state legislators. There's the ones that control the purse strings. And then you would have to be able to collectively bargain with the governor, who either vetoes or passes that, with their signature. The sheriff doesn't have any control over that.
Well, what's the national model? Because, okay, let's say all the sheriff employees say, the deputies say, we're going to strike, we ain't coming to work, we're going to have a sick out. I mean, who would, would just fire everybody and hire everybody? I mean, how would that, I'm just trying to figure it out just from the, I think from the national perspective that this is not the first time that sheriff's employees have been organized. But, I get what you're saying.
I don't think we have any sheriff's offices in Virginia that are organized. Okay. I'm a supporter of unions. In fact, my literature, is printed from unions, from Economy Printing over in Portsmouth. I
know Scott.
Yeah, and so I'm a supporter. When I was on the police department, we had the police union, and so I'm a supporter of unions, always have been, because they brought a lot of good to all workers. The 8-hour workday, the 40-hour work week. All these things are important. What happens in the work environment, very important stuff. For me, that's why I've been so vocal as an advocate for my employees. I'm here not to be served, I'm here to serve others, and my employees are part of that.
Okay, well, this is your portion of the show. Remind our viewers and listeners why they should vote for you, and also if you have a website, let us know what it is.
Well, they should vote for me because experience matters. I have 36 years in law enforcement here in Norfolk, and 26 years with the police department, last 10 with the Norfolk Sheriff's Office, and the last 4 as your sheriff. My opponent only has 5 years experience in law enforcement. So that experience is important, but it's also important leadership-wise. I have over 20 years of leadership experience in law enforcement. Plus, I'm a U.S. veteran. And here's the more important thing. I'm getting the job done, and I'm getting the job done in a big way. You know, I've improved programs. They're evidence-based programs for our inmates. I've taken care of our employees. I've gotten them better pay, gotten them better benefits, and their morale is higher today than it was 4 years ago. And I've created unique inmate programs and community-based programs. And I got focused. I got focused on one thing, making a difference. How can I make a difference in the lives of others as far as we can reach? And in fact, I made that our vision statement at the Norfolk Sheriff's Office. The Norfolk Sheriff's Office purpose is to make a difference in the lives of others. And that's what I did, and that's what you get from me as your sheriff. You can look me up at joebarronforsheriff.com. You can reach me on my cell phone number, 757-270-8205, if you need to call me or contact me. And I have always made myself available to the community.
All right. We have been talking to Sheriff of the City of Norfolk, Joe Barron.
Oh, I do have one more thing to say.
Okay, he has one more thing to say.
We are hiring at the Norfolk Sheriff's Office. I don't know if your camera can get it. We are hiring.
Yeah, he got it. Yeah,
and if anybody wants a job at the Norfolk Sheriff's Office, we need deputies. They can go to www.norfolk-sheriff.com/jobs. Or you can call at 757-664-4706.
Okay, once again, we've been speaking with Sheriff Joe Barron for the City of Norfolk. He's up for re-election. So if you haven't already voted, make sure you get out and vote on November the 2nd. This is Bob Z from Bob Z UnKut Community Views. We'll see you next week.